So good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Regeneration and Housing Scrutiny Review Board on Tuesday the 15th of March. Do we have any apologies? I know Councillor Evans and I believe Councillor West.
That's correct.
Thank you. Item 2, late items by the Chair. I have none. Item 3, declarations of interest. Anybody got any interest? Okay. So item 4, the meetings of the minutes held on the 18th of January. Does somebody want to propose them? Thank you, Councillor Grimmerdale. And are you going to second them, Councillor Khan?
I wasn't present.
No, neither was I. But so I'll have to second them anyway. Okay, thank you, Councillor Grimmerdale. Right, so we now have Wayne, who's going to tell us about the Norway Sports Village. Wayne.
Good evening, I'm Wayne Sills, I'm Area Leisure Centre Manager, and I'm one of the leisure officers that's been working on the Norway's Sports Village project, and I'm here with
Claire Davenport, good evening, and I'm Director of Leisure, Culture and Tourism. So what we're going to do today is we're going to take you through the Norway Sports Village project. It's very exciting times for this particular project. I'm sure that many of you may have even seen the photos in the media recently, because we've just done the official launch. So what we'll do is we'll take you through the information together. So the council took handover of Norway Sports Village very recently. So it was handed from Homer and Kirkland, our construction partner, who have done an excellent job at keeping the facility being constructed on time, and we're also currently on budget, and that's an incredible achievement given that we've had 2 years of COVID as a pandemic. So this is also a successful partnership that we've had with Homer and Kirkland before, because they were partnering with us on Derby Arena, which also finished and constructed on time and on budget. So it's great to have these two iconic facilities, real flagships for our city. Just to take you through an overview of the building, many people may have seen this slide. It's a great cross-section showing that we've got a real diversity of swimming provision in this facility. The building's on 3 levels, and as a customer you would enter in the middle, and so you actually come in on the middle level and then go up to the health and fitness level and down to the pools. The central level of the facility houses the main reception, a cafe, a soft play area, and also meeting rooms which look over a really stunning athletic stadium. Previously that was quite hidden behind the buildings, and now it's opened it up to really help create that Norway Sports Village feel. The upper level has the gym and 3 exercise studios. The gym will have approximately 120 stations, so that's pieces of fitness equipment, and it'll have CV machines, so cardiovascular machines, which do lungs and heart, etc., as well as treadmills, bikes, rowers and fixed resistance and free weights machines. There'll be 3 separate studios, really important for the group exercise classes that support the gym programme, and a cycle studio inside. There's separate changing rooms on this level too for gym customers, and this will create a real membership feel to these fantastic facilities. If you go down to the ground floor, that's where the unique 50-metre pool is, and the water park with a teaching pool. So facilities that are a real asset to our city. Linking the 3 pools together is a village changing room with a mix of individual, family, disabled cubicles and group change cubicles. It even has a changing places facility as well. The mix of water facility supports the swimmer journey, and how from starting out, splashing and playing in the water park, you can actually progress through to being an elite athlete by taking part in our swimming programme, our Learn to Swim programme, as well as also then moving through recreational and then performance clubs, right through to our high performance coaches who've actually produced world-class athletes in our city. The most famous, I'm sure you'll be aware of, Adam Peaty, who started as a 9-year-old boy at Queen's Leisure Centre. With facilities like this, we can create superb opportunities for performance athletes, but also for our community use. And we have some clubs that involve canoeing, scuba diving, that will also go in the 50-metre pool. So it's about a broad range of swimming programme that this facility will be able to provide. Over the next few slides, we'll give you a more detailed look at some of these exciting areas so you can see what's going to be opening very soon. The 50-metre pool uses the state-of-the-art technology. It has 2 movable floors. So at the front of that photograph, you'll see a white floor with lines on it. That's the bottom of the pool moved to the top. So that actually goes to 0 level, which is where it is now, and it sinks down to a 1.8 metre depth. So that gives us flexibility on programming for being able to stop the movable floor at, say, 0.9 of a metre, which will allow everybody to be shoulder depth and still have the water to be shoulder depth, but still have the feet on the bottom of the pool. Whereas for a performance swimmer, they like the floor the furthest away from the surface, because then the water doesn't hit them and slow them down on the bounce back. So all that sort of provision has been catered for in this facility. And it also has movable walls, which we call booms. So if you look halfway down that photograph, there is a movable boom, and that it's a submersible boom, and it goes right down to the floor level again to create a 1.8 metre depth. If it's up where it is at the moment, we have 2 of those, and because the width of the facility is 25 metres, it eventually, with those booms in that configuration, creates 3 25-metre regional pools under 1 pool hall. So that is a really special design that will allow everybody to take part in different programmes at different times. The example where that level will also be useful is at a shallower depth is for aqua aerobics, for elderly usage, or for young children or adults getting water confidence. To the left of the photograph, there's 350 competitor seats. I'm just checking on the photo, yeah. So your left, and on the right, just over 400 spectator seats. So families can watch, and parents can watch children taking part in either lessons or competition. The water park, very special feature of this facility. On your doorstep there will be a number of features that are the first in the UK or in England. So we've got the use of the wow ball, that's the orange feature in the main tank, and this is enabling waves to be produced in different configurations and different strengths to allow more enjoyment of that facility, petering out onto a flat beach level tiled area, so you can sit on that and pretend you're at the seaside if you're a small child, or people with disabilities, or people who are maybe more elderly might wish to just sit in the shallower water and not be too near the boisterous waves. There are also 2 racer slides at the back of that photograph, and that allows children to race each other, their friends, brothers, sisters, mums and dads. They can all have fun because there's 2 slides next to each other that they can race each other to the bottom. And we also have then the elevation for smaller children, so tipping buckets, small slides, and lots of jets that you can aim at friends or family. The wave rider at the rear of the picture is the only one in England. So the other one that we're aware of is in Rhyl in Wales, and basically you can go down that in a tube, an inflatable tube, either as a single ride or a double ride. So all fun for the family. The water park also has fantastic views from the cafe, so if you don't want to actually be in the mix of the fun and games, you can actually be enjoying a relaxing coffee, reading the newspaper or watching other people enjoy the facilities. And then the teaching pool is another really great aspect to this facility. By making it 7 metres by 8 metres and a 1 metre constant depth, it is attractive to swimming lessons, parties for children, or other activities where a shallower depth is required, or in fact it can be screened off by blinds that electronically can be moved down to protect the water area from sight lines. And this will be really popular with ethnic minority groups. It could be schools or lessons. The operator at this facility is going to be an operating partner called Everyone Active, and we're going to install sensory lighting in that area with some investment funding to programme that space even more flexibly. For the more relaxing customer, there's a great new spa next to the teaching pool and the 50-metre pool, along with a steam room and a sauna cabin. An ideal place to relax after a workout, a swim, or a hard day in the office. The sitting area in reception is also next to a soft play area. So what we've done is provided a small soft play area for younger children, and that will allow them parents to keep an eye on them whilst having a coffee in the cafe. We've also got a further soft play area that overlooks Osmaston Park through a large main window, and that caters for toddlers right up to 12 to 13-year-olds. That's got a ninja run, some interactive areas, some slides, a toddler play zone, and again something for the entire family. Once you've been to any of the facilities, you can come into the cafe. So you can come in to just use the cafe, or use it after or during your family's visit to the facility. So great opportunity for everybody, and I'll hand over now to Wayne, who will take us through the rest of the facilities.
Okay, thank you, Claire. Throughout the whole design process, accessibility and inclusion have been central to the design process that we've gone through, working with B&K and Faulkner Browns, who were our architects. But also the critical thing to ensure that we get it as good as we can for the residents of the city is we've done a lot of work with our own equality, diversity and inclusion hubs, such as the Deaf Club, the Learning Disability Partnership, the Access Hubs, and as well as our own internal equality lead and visual impairment lead, to ensure that the advice and guidance we get is really first class, and also with that looking at how we've been able to incorporate that into this facility in order to make it as accessible and inclusive as we can for everyone. And to assist disabled, elderly, or those with mobility issues, particularly say access to 50-metre pool, we've got a number of features we've included. One is, as you can see on the slide, the inbuilt steps and lift, and the other one is Pool Pod. Both provide independent access to the facility and also ensures that the person using it can do that in a dignified way. In terms of the Pool Pod, that was developed for the Aquatic Centre for London 2012 to ensure and support the para athletes get in and out of the pool. So that's something we've really looked at for Derby. So it's just moving on. So in addition to access around the 50, we've also bought something called an ice swim hoist, which can be used wherever we need in any of the pools. And again, that provides dignified and independent access into one, particularly the teaching pool. The water park, as Claire mentioned earlier, we've got sloped access into the water area, so given a zero right the way down to make it easy for people to get in, whether you've got a mobility issue or you've got young children with you. One of the things we've also looked to purchase is, as you can see, these easy roller wheelchairs. That allows someone in a wheelchair to actually decant from their existing wheelchair into that wheelchair, and then the wheelchair can be taken into the water itself, and then at the end of that, the plastic wheelchair, easy roller, is wheeled out, and then the customer can then again transition from that wheelchair into their own to then go and get changed. So it ensures that we've got as much accessibility into all of the facilities as we can. In addition to access into the pool, we've got lifts to all 3 floors, and we've got 3 lifts, 2 at the front, 1 at the rear. We've got induction loops in reception. As Claire mentioned earlier, we've got a changing places, toilet and changing room within the swimming pool changing. And in addition to that, we've got accessible changing, showers and toilets. Looking outside the facility, we've got a number of designated blue badge spaces that are near the front doors. And given this is a destination, but also a family facility, all of the parking spaces within the Norway Sports Village car park are larger than normal. So if you're coming with a small family, then wherever you park, the actual bays are larger, which means it's easy for you to get out, set up your wheelchair, get the children out, before you actually then come up to the facility itself. Just moving on in terms of the leisure operator contract that we've got in place. So over the last 12 months, we've worked our way through from setting out the outline tender to awarding the contract. And we're really pleased to confirm that the exciting news that Everyone Active has been appointed as our new leisure operating partner for Norway Sports Village. And we're currently working with them now on their mobilisation to ensure that the fantastic facility is ready to open in spring 22. There are a number of meetings that are going with them that are going extremely well, and we're really starting to develop a really positive partnership with Everyone Active. Just to give you a little bit of information around Everyone Active. So Everyone Active is the UK's leading operator for local leisure gym, swim and activities facilities, currently working in partnership with more than 60 local authorities to manage over 200 leisure and cultural facilities across the country. They're also the UK's longest established leisure contractor, and as such will bring a wealth of experience and knowledge to the management and operation of Norway Sports Village. And it's been a privilege to be able to develop that partnership with them to maximise the leisure opportunities that become available within our city and to support our communities moving more and becoming more active. In addition to that, as it shows on the slide, is they have 19 Everyone Health contracts. They employ over 14,000 colleagues. They are Swim England Operator of the Year, and they're also UK Active Training Award Large Employer of the Year in 2018. So they come with, as I say, a wealth of experience and knowledge that can only benefit the city. And as well as Norway Sports Village, the management contract is wider than just managing the village, and it also incorporates our Active Communities programme. So we'll be looking and working closely in partnership with Everyone Active and the council's Move More Derby team, looking at a Move More Derby Active Communities programme. That will focus on innovative and non-traditional and specialist activities that will appeal to the wider audience, particularly aimed at priority groups and those that are inactive or less active that have been identified through local insight work that the Move More Derby team have done. As part of that, as part of the contract then, a minimum of £50,000 has been ring-fenced as investment for year one. They will be working within targeted wards, and as I say, focusing on inactive and underrepresented groups to engage them in regular physical activity. They'll also be looking around a number of sports and physical activity ambassadors that will go out into local communities, encourage people to become active, and also looking at generating a number of volunteers to support that, and also working with local clubs and the community programme. Thank you.
It certainly looks very nice, doesn't it? Can you just go back to that last slide?
That one.
Yeah. Can you just tell me what the minimum 50,000 ring fence investment a year to support? Does that mean we will pay them £50,000 a year? No, right, that's okay.
They've ring-fenced
so
within their bid.
They will invest 50,000 a year. I wasn't sure. I thought, well, better just have a check. That's fine. So, right, so open up to questions. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Chair. Just a few, actually, quick ones. First and foremost, on that slide there, we're talking about work targeted in key wards. What exactly is that?
So, the Moving Board Derby team works in a number of sort of under deprived wards in the city, so Sinfin, Allington, Osmiston. They're currently doing quite a lot of insight work in those areas, looking at what residents need and what support they need to become more active, particularly for those that are currently inactive, but those that are doing something, again, what will encourage them to do more. That they will then be working with Everyone Active's outreach team and active communities team in terms of then developing activities out in the community. So that might be doing something like a buggy walk for young mums that recently had a baby. It might be working with older groups or older population groups in terms of physical activity or group exercise class or a chair-based exercise class in a local community. So it may be that actually those residents can't get into Moorways, so they will go out and do that activity in their local community. So that could be in a church hall, that could be in a community setting, or somewhere very similar to those sorts of venues. And then the long-term aim is that those people become more active, potentially then can use more ways. The benefit of them becoming more active is then that is less impact on the NHS and services because people are doing more, so hopefully then they're not suffering from joint issues or, and similar ailments to that.
You've given a very detailed explanation there. The second thing I was going to ask was, in terms of inactive and underrepresented, I mean, you say you could have ambassadors and volunteers and whatever. How will you be coordinating that then? I mean, I would have thought that the first point of call would have been local councillors for them to be invited into this, and then they know more about what's needed in their wards and who to contact.
I think in terms of the active, the Move More Derby team, I'm quite sure that they are linking in with the local neighbourhood boards in terms of some of that activity. In terms of the similar presentation, we've been to the Sinfin Neighbourhood Board already in terms of updating them on the work that's taking place. And I think once Everyone Active have actually moved into Moorway Sports Village and got set up, then we'll be giving them those links. They'll be working with the Move More Derby team anyway, so they will know those links into the local communities through that forum, but also will be working with them in terms of them attending neighbourhood board meetings, so that relationship between the councillors and the neighbourhood boards can be generated with the Everyone Active communities team and contract manager. So then that will then hopefully ensure that they're delivering the right thing to those communities.
I mean, I can understand the Sinfin sort of neighbourhood board being, because it's in their ward, and obviously they you know sort of will probably have more information than that. But I would like to see sort of other wards around that, you know, being invited to come there. So the other thing I was going to ask was, have we got any sort of idea of what the costs will be for this in terms of, day passes or memberships, reduced memberships, etc.?
Yes, so we're about to issue a press release with some headline prices on, so that'll be out in the next few days. And the headline is that their prices are very comparable with existing prices that are currently on offer. All the concessionary schemes that we currently provide as a council are also going to be provided by everyone active, and that was part of the contractual requirement. So very much going to be affordable and accessible and inclusive, this facility.
So we have to wait for the press release.
Well, there's too many for us to go, but just it's comparable, you know. So £5 for a swim, if that gives you an idea.
Okay, thank you.
That's interesting. £5 for a swim. How much was it at Queen's?
£5.
Good. Good. Councillor Grimmadale.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to make a comment and just say really what a fantastic facility this is. And I think the update on the Norway Sports Village is something that we all need. Derby should be proud of what the City Council's providing, and I think that to come in on time and on budget for completion is really congratulations to the whole of the team at Derby City Council, everybody concerned with this. And I look at the pool as a destination. I don't think it's just really, it's great for the Derby public, Derby people, but really I think the pool and the village eventually will be a complete destination. So my congratulations. And Birmingham and Kirkland have certainly worked very well with the arena, and the arena over the years have won many, many awards. I don't think many people are aware of the awards that the arena have won in the past, and no doubt I believe the pool will win far more. The water park, the teaching pool, the spa, the whole lot. It's absolutely fantastic. And let's hope another Adam Peaty chair comes forward from this tremendous facility. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Grimmadale. Not sure what that was about. Right, okay. Are we all? Any more questions? Anybody? No. Oh, well done. We look forward to. When do we think it's actually going to be open? Well, give us a date.
We'll be announcing very soon, and it'll be opening very soon. So
Well,
get your trunks at
It was spring-like today, so. No, it has been noted, Councillor Khan, that there's not a lot of information about that's come out there, but hey ho.
No, it'll be very soon, and it's being discussed next week.
Okay, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Right, next is homelessness and rough sleeping pandemic impacts, trends and challenges. Is it Jim? Jim, come and talk to us. Tell us all about it. I have a particular interest in this one.
Hello, sorry. So I'm Jim Joyce. I'm Head of Housing Options and Homelessness for Derby Homes. So I'm going to talk you through these slides. So, homeless approaches. Oh, it's on the... It's not going very well with technology, is it? So, homeless approaches to housing options pre-pandemic was, as you can see, 2,500. During the early restrictions of the pandemic, it did slow down a little to just over 2,200. And as of 2021, 2022, we're predicting over 2,500, so 2,600 approaches through housing options as homeless. This won't be anything new to you. I don't know why it keeps doing that. Derby's Housing Register. So the Housing Register is facilitated within housing options. The demand is increasing. We're seeing significant numbers of people registering to be rehoused. The supply of social housing is just not keeping up with the demand. And an example there is, a point of writing this presentation, there is 8,078 people registered on the Housing Register, which is a choice-based letting system called Home Finder. And in the last year, 4,675 people placed bids for available properties that were advertised.
Can I just jump in there? So that means that there was 4,675... My apologies. So that means that there was 4,675 people who bid on a property, and of course, more than one person can bid on a property.
Absolutely. So that's
what that says to me, there's not many properties.
Absolutely.
That's a real concern, isn't it?
So on average, if you wanted me to give you a ballpark figure, around 800 properties a year are advertised through Home Finder, and a majority of those are what are classed as over 60s, so again limited. So we may have a large number of people on the Housing Register, but limited ability for them to bid for properties because it doesn't meet their needs. So a family waiting for a 4-bed, it's difficult for them to see a property come up that's available, and when it does, it's got a huge volume of people also bidding for it. And properties are allocated on need, obviously, in line with the allocations policy. So temporary accommodation and bed and breakfast placements. So during the pandemic, we did see some pressures on bed and breakfast accommodation, and that was obviously because of the Everybody In campaign, and everybody wanted to, we placed all singles no matter what during that pandemic period. And during that period, we did see, oddly, a reduce in the use of bed and breakfast for families. But that would have been because there was no court evictions, there was nobody moving at that point, and so we did see a reduction. But unfortunately, over the last few months, we have seen an increase in the use of families into bed and breakfast, which is extremely concerning for us. Prevention and relief of homelessness. It wants to go to that next slide every time. Encouraging people to come to us sooner is, a huge piece of work for us. We've got initiatives, Call Before You Serve, which are targeted at landlords and tenants. We've done loads of media campaigns through all types of media to encourage that early voice to allow us to be able to help. We've seen significant improvements in our prevention results over the last 3 years, which leads ultimately to better outcomes for our customers. Less disruption, less stress, less pressure, and less demand on the temporary housing solutions that we have within the city. I'll wait for it to flick and come back. Performance, so comparisons at a local level and a national level. Performance is good overall, and for you to look at more detail about that, it is in the associated document as well, which gives a lot more detail than this slideshow. But performance is really good, a lot of focus on prevention, but also as well, it's good to recognise that additionally we've been identified by DLUC, Levelling Up, that they are very impressed with the projects that we run in Derby. And we are used as a bit of a flagship when they're talking to other housing providers around homelessness about the innovative projects that we have operating across the city. So moving on to vulnerable adults, So we've got grant-funded schemes such as Action Housing, Deventio, AFIO, which is accommodation for ex-offenders, and all these are targeted housing pathways that we utilise from within housing options. We also have other projects such as the RSAP, which is a rough sleeper accommodation project, and that is specific properties that have been acquired in conjunction with the City Council through grant funding, through government initiatives that have allowed us to purchase a number of properties which are then specifically tailored for people to move into as their first step into their independent living, with huge amounts of solutions around tailored support for them. And that has been a real success for us. We have Safe Space, which is daily access to support and diversionary activities, along with additional nighttime space and a police drop-off facility. We have specialist housing, and this is a mixture of low, medium and high support accommodation, depending on the individual's support plan needs. We have the Marsh, which is a multi-agency rough sleeping hub. And this is where our most complex and challenging customers are discussed to provide positive support in a multi-agency approach. This has been invaluable for us to work with those multi-agency teams at a level, not only at operational level, but at also a strategic level as well. And the MDT, which is multidisciplinary time. This is access to primary care GP, which goes beyond the standard GP appointments. So we've got specific time with a designated GP that allows us to think about what are the issues that are facing rough sleepers and homeless people across the city, rather than it just being an appointment to go and collect a prescription. Moving on. So here we're going to talk about families. So some of the elements around the families work that we're doing. The PRS team, which is the private rented sector team, this is really key for us to be able to build networks with the landlords in the private rented sector market to try and develop options for us to be able to offer properties to people who are on the housing register who are probably not going to get a property through social housing, and it takes the pressure off the housing register. Debt and welfare. So housing options are strong links with Derby Advice, Derby Help and Advice and Citizens Advice Bureau to make appropriate referrals to support individuals around financial matters. The local authority financial support schemes, we've really been heavily involved in that. We've had a real push from Derby Home side, and we've sent significant referrals through. I think Bernard Fenton's team is extremely pleased with the interaction that we've had. I think we've absolutely flooded him with referrals from all areas of Derby Homes, whether it's somebody approaching as homeless, so an additional prevention tool for us, or whether it's somebody signing up for a new property. Homeless prevention grant top-up. So this is money that is focused on trying to alleviate the bed and breakfast and temporary accommodation use within the city. And we would spend this on a variety of activities, such as maybe mediation to help sort the problem out so the family can stay in a property, or repatriating back to a local area or out of the country, or a contribution to paying towards rent arrears that may make it more sustainable for them to stay there for a longer period of time. Additionally, upstreaming financial support, and this is all about trying to, get financial support in a targeted manner for people who need it. So, for example, for those who may have lower level of rent arrears, this is connected to the financial advice services that we work with. Rough sleeping. So we have concerns with new entrants. We are seeing new entrants, and our work is focusing on catching them to stop anybody having a first night out on the street. So again, that goes to understanding about our upstream work, to understand how we can get the media campaign out, so to approach us so nobody has to have a first night. But what is key for that is as well, when we're identifying those individuals and we are working with them, we're analysing the reasons. So that will give us an insight into their experience to help us foresee potential issues. 50% on our last estimate count, those were seen on the, so 50% of those people who were seen actually had accommodation elsewhere, but remained on the street overnight. And we're working on that as a system to deliver and to better understand what drives this. Some of the challenges: supply appropriate to need. There's just not enough affordable and suitable accommodation in the city for those that require it. The local housing allowance is getting more and more out of step with the private rented sector market. It's not keeping up with rent increases. Post-pandemic, it's just the private rented sector market has just shot up, and is making it unaffordable for us to be able to access and use that as much as we'd like. And you know, as a bit of a guidance there, you know, average 3-bedroom house rent has gone up over £100 in the last 18 months in the private rented sector. Accommodation is only part of the solution. There is a bed for everybody in the city who needs one. We need to look deeper than that, and simply providing accommodation isn't just the answer. Tackling wider determinants, we must understand that the connectivity between health inequality and the lack of access to safe, affordable housing in the city. And we must integrate housing, health, care strategy. You know, it's to improve longer-term outcomes for the citizens of Derby. And as you'll know, government is stating in the recent white paper that inserting good housing at the centre of social care thinking. So, you know, finally we're getting housing raised as a key element. That's it from me.
Okay, that's fine. Very interesting. Questions? Councillor Grimmadale, Councillor Khan? No? Oh, sorry. Councillor Grimmadale.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to ask how many people are sleeping rough on any one night in Derby itself?
So it's varied. I mean, at our most recent count, which was November last year, which was just recently published, there was 11 on the estimated count. But that is a wider, huge count, and that's an estimate. And 50% of those did have access to housing. Rough sleeping, nobody has to rough sleep because we have a variety of options for them, including safe space. So if somebody is found who has not accessed housing options through the day and has become homeless that night, the police have the facility to pick them up and take them to safe space where we have bed for them. Or Milestone House is an option as well.
So what's the age range? Are we talking about elderly people or young people?
Predominantly young people, but all the way up to sort of 40s. We do see some older customers that come through. We have some people that do sort of drop into the city, and the issue we're finding with that is that obviously, as we all know, Derby is the middle of the country, and there might be somebody travelling to get somewhere, and then they might take a night in the city as they pass through. But the ages do vary. You know, we do have some young people, you know, in the early 20s, but these are very, very complex, traumatised. It's, you know, providing a roof over somebody's head is not the fix. That's only part of the whole holistic approach that we have to help mend them, because obviously nobody is going to choose to sleep rough as an option.
And when you mention safe space, how many places are we talking about as safe spaces? What are these places?
So within safe space, before it was like a church environment where there would be just mattresses laid out and beds, you know, for overnight stay in quite a large number in a very open space. Whereas now, well, during the pandemic, we had to change that method, obviously, because of, you know, self-isolating. So we now have 5 glass pods that are based within the environment and 1 separate room. So we can house an additional 6 people outside of our other provisions around Milestone House and bed and breakfast placements.
In glass pods?
Yep.
Okay.
So they're very popular. They don't sound like they'd be popular, but people do like them. And sometimes people would prefer to go to the glass pod than be anywhere else.
My final question is about the marsh. where you mentioned the most difficult people go. I mean, where is the marsh?
Well, the Marsh is a group, so I'm sorry, that's a multi-agency group of people that meet. So that's made up of social care, social workers, housing, and so we meet remotely, and Teams has been fantastic for us. We've seen to have larger engagement with people that we never would have reached before. The really good thing for us is we actually have Inspector Rich Keane from the police force, who actually chairs the Marsh meeting for us. So he holds those people who are supposed to be providing solutions for this cohort to task. And that meeting is all about our most complex, difficult individuals who have struggled through all the other types of support we've offered. Yep. It's a chance to get the strategic leads and also operational leads around the table to come up with a positive solution to address and help that individual.
And how often do you meet?
They meet fortnightly.
Okay, many thanks. Yeah, thank you, Chair.
What's the main reason that people become homeless? Or one of the main reasons?
Trauma, childhood trauma, abuse, being in care, mistreated. The only source to solution is to, maybe drink, drugs, but also as well that, the fact is that they've constantly been told, no, you can't do that, no, you can't do that. These are the rules, some people, but it is we have a lot of work that we're doing at the moment around trauma-enforced counselling to be able to understand, because like I say, we can't repeat it enough. There's just putting a rough sleeper who has been rough sleeping for 5, 10, 15 years or even 12 months into a house is just not the solution. There needs to be a robust package around them to allow them to adjust to that world of living.
Interesting what you said about 50% of people sleep rough by choice.
Well, I think the slide there is a little bit loose in the word choice. I think that what we've found is that even though we've provided accommodation, some people still feel the need to be part of that community, part of that environment, that style that they've been used to, because it's institutionalised like anything else it is. If you've done it for many years, it's hard to just give it up. So even though we can provide accommodation, furnished, we can provide wraparound support, there are still occasions where that individual feels the need that they need to be out on the street.
I know exactly what you mean. I used to work in a project in Cannock, and we had a chap that was living in a tent next to a pub, a derelict pub, and we reached out to him and worked with him and actually got him inside, and he didn't last 40 minutes because he was so used to being in the tent, and that was his world, and he couldn't stay. It broke my heart. He couldn't stay with us, and I know there was so much work went into this gentleman, and I don't know what happened in the end. I moved on.
Yeah, I agree, Chair. It's difficult, and we have seen a customer before who's been in accommodation with us and has put a tent up in his front room.
Yeah, I've seen
to be
that,
able to cope with that transitional period of giving up that environment to living in something. It would be terrifying for any of us to think about having to have a night on the street. And if you just reflect back, that could be just as terrifying for somebody who's used to having a night on the street to actually be in a house. That's the factor you have to have.
It sounds silly, but I know exactly.
Yeah.
I've been there. I've worked with it.
I mean, I was cringing watching all that water talk because I'm terrified of water. So
Interesting what you've said about, say, 50% choose to sleep rough. That also means that they have a house over their head. And that links in with begging as well, doesn't it? Because a lot of people make out they rough sleep when actually they don't actually.
Yeah.
There was a very famous gentleman outside Sainsbury's who was there for many months who actually has a place to live in Chaddeston.
Absolutely, Chair. We have a constant task of trying to educate that begging is not an option. But we also have a challenge, I think, with the citizens of Derby to educate them that, giving in that manner is not appropriate. There are other options to be able to give through charities. We're currently working with groups to be able to give a Just Giving page so that people, if they see somebody that is sleeping rough, we want them to notify us straight away, because as I said in the presentation, there is a bed for everybody. Nobody has to sleep rough. But equally as well, you know, it is a lucrative environment in certain places of the city. And you are absolutely right, there are some people who are not homeless, they have accommodation, but they still choose to go out and beg. And that is part of our education, our support, our counselling with them, to be able to get the support worker to work with them to try and end that. But the message I would always encourage is not to give and to look at an alternative route, because there's plenty of charities out there.
I remember somebody who I used to house on Hartington Street. He would go begging outside Lidl and get £25 an hour. It was right, okay. Do some amazing work. I know Dementia Housing work really closely with you. I'm a good friend of Sarah. Yeah, you do some amazing work. I've been there. I know exactly what that work is like. I know how rewarding it is. I also know how challenging it can be.
It is.
And heartbreaking. You know, I came back to the guy with the tent. He just couldn't do it. And it's one of my biggest regrets that I don't know how that finished up. But I moved on, and you don't find these things out anymore.
I'm very proud of our frontline staff, Chair.
I'm not
I
surprised.
think they are exceptional for what they do.
Yes, they are. And pass our thanks on to all of them, please.
Thank you.
Right, thank you very much indeed.
Sorry about the technical problems.
Right, brings us on now to HS2 update. There's a lovely lady dressed in yellow that's going to tell us all about it. You can wait there or outside, it's up to you. Yeah, okay. I'll just want 2 minutes with you, that's all.
Okay, thank you, Chair, and thank you for asking me to come and give you this update. I will be reasonably brief, because you probably may be aware that there's been quite a lot of recent change in relation to HS2, and we're still in the process of understanding what that means and how we take things forward. So I guess perhaps the first thing we should do is just remind us where we were, because obviously we're talking about the eastern leg of HS2 here. So if you'll recall, that eastern leg linked Birmingham and Leeds through the East Midlands hub at Towton, so the station at Towton you can see there. And a strong partnership was certainly formed around that to look at High Speed 2 and the eastern leg, where the local authorities and partners all came and worked together through East Midlands councils, and a strong HS2 partnership was established. That oversaw the development of a growth strategy, which was published in September 2017. Feels ages ago, doesn't it? Focusing around, particularly of importance for us in Derby, Towton, as I say, is that hub station. There is also a detailed gateway study published in May 2020, which also looked at improving connectivity to Towton, to the towns and cities across the region, which included Derby. So that's where we were. So what changed was that in November last year, the government published its long-awaited Integrated Rail Plan, or you might hear it referred to as the IRP. So this document outlined how HS2 and the HS2, that Eastern Link, Northern Powerhouse Rail, the Midlands Rail Hub and other rail projects would be delivered to make efficient use of both the funding and the existing infrastructure. So it was not the eastern leg in full, as we know. Now, the IRP came about after two probably key documents. Firstly was the independent Oakervie review into HS2, and after that review, they subsequently announced the agreement to proceed to phase 1, which is the link from London to the West Midlands into Birmingham. And then secondly, perhaps most crucially, was the National Infrastructure Commission conducted their rail needs assessment. So they were commissioned by government to consider how the rail needs of the North and the Midlands might be most effectively realised. And the NEC carried out extensive consultation with stakeholders before the publication of the assessment. And there was certainly a very strong and united voice from all the partners on the eastern leg about, about the statement of the benefits in full and seeking delivery in full. It's probably just worth saying that the NEC work within a binding fiscal remit. So anything that they recommend, they have to demonstrate is consistent with and set out how that can be accommodated within specific targets, for fiscal targets. So it's something like the investment of the infrastructure must be between 1 and 1.2% of gross domestic product each year. So, they're working within a tight fiscal budget themselves. And their assessment put forward 3 different options. Broadly, the IRP follows their recommendations, which is a sort of baseline plus a 25% package. It would be very fair to say the document met with a mixed reception. There was certainly disappointment that the Eastern Leg wasn't going to be delivered in full, particularly from partners in the North. The connectivity to Leeds, to York, to Newcastle and beyond, which isn't there, and obviously isn't going to quite realise the same benefits as the full delivery. However, it is worth saying that there are some very, very positive commitments in the IRP, which absolutely will benefit the East Midlands and help to address some of the historic underfunding in transport infrastructure that we've suffered with as a region. And potentially some of them might be delivered sooner than would have been the case on the original plan. So the first is a new line, a new HS2 line from Birmingham to East Midlands Parkway. So that would mean that we would have conventional compatible trains serving the Parkway, Derby, Nottingham, Chesterfield and Sheffield via the Midlands main line. So we will get HS2 trains into the station, which we wouldn't have done under the previous proposals. And a clear prerequisite of that is electrification of the Midland main line, and that will be from Market Harborough to Leicester, Nottingham, Derby, Chesterfield, Sheffield. And with the statement in the IRP that will be delivered in the early 2030s. So certainly that's something we've had a long-held ambition for as Derby and along with partners in the East. Electrification from Bedford to Kettering is already complete, and work started on the Kettering to Market Harborough phase. And initial preparations for the rest of the line has already begun by a Network Rail. Clearly there are challenges in that, not least Derwent Valley Mills along the way. There are some heritage bridges and other structures that we'll have to work through. But absolutely, I think we could all agree that with electrification combined with potential new rolling stock, revised service patterns, it could be that we get interim benefits in the delivery. So maybe Nottingham to London could be under 90 minutes, Leicester to London under 60 minutes. So I think that's a really, really big positive. Upgrades to the East Coast main line are in there as well. That could be new signalling and power supply so that longer and more frequent trains are on that and with increased speeds. Probably some work around some of the stations on there and tackling some of the bottlenecks. So the IRP suggests a reduction in journey time from London to Leeds of 20 minutes, for instance. Still subject to a business case. The other 2 bits that we'd certainly be very interested in is that it still talks about provision for a local rail station at Towton. So that could support and facilitate some suburban rail network, perhaps on the other side of Nottingham. Again, though, subject to a business case and 50% private sector contribution. And the final one was the Maid Marian line and the Robin Hood line extensions. Again, could be direct trains from Mansfield to London if that's realised. So, there are some really interesting things in the IRP that could really benefit us as a city. These proposals very much interact much more with our existing railway than the HS2 original proposals did. So there's lots and lots to understand about what is the scope. The devil's in the detail. What's the scope of this? How are we going to take things forward? Lots of them require business cases, as you can see, so that's a lot of work. And we really need to understand the impact of what they're doing on the services that we provide. You know, how are we going to phase electrification and what impact will that have on local services while we're doing the work? All those sorts of complicated things. So I guess finally, just really to sum that up, what we're doing now is to really work with DfT and Network Rail to get to under the skin of the IRP. So what are those capacity issues? What are the phasing of electrification? How are we going to, you know, what will the impact of connecting to an HS2 line in Derby and in Nottingham mean? And we need to review what we're doing already. So, you know, I said we'd got the growth strategy based on the original plan. We need to go back and look at that and see what we can get out of that. What are the public transport benefits and connectivity that we wanted, and how does that relate to the new plan with the station at Parkway? We need to work on developing those 4 stations, so that's East Midlands Parkway, Nottingham, Derby, Chesterfield, and how that would look, what Toton might look like, and work with DfT and how we're going to fund some of this work and do it in collaboration. We need to look at things like the service train options and how those might play out, and the key infrastructure enhancements we might need that might be more than just electrification. There may be other things we'll need. So lots of work to be done, lots of work, and particularly at a regional level. We need to do this collaboratively. This isn't something for Derby to do on its own. So we work with Transport for the East Midlands, we work with Midlands Connect and the East Midlands Development Corporation to really understand and get underneath it. And I guess finally we also need to see, you know, what will be the ongoing connectivity to the north. So how are we going to link up with Yorkshire, with up to Newcastle, etc., and how are we going to do that working with government? So overall, it isn't the business case that it was to start with, but there are definitely some good things here, particularly the electrification, and we continue to work to understand the detail.
Thank you very much indeed, because the electrification was going to be done a few years ago, and then it got cancelled, didn't it? Which was a great shame, but glad finally coming. Anyway, over to the councillors. Any questions?
Oh, thank you, Chair. It just seems to me that it's going to be a long, drawn-out exercise and project, and it's going to go on for many, many years. And I would just like to hear something probably a little bit more definite, but we can't do that, can we? There's nothing definite that we can hear as such.
I think certainly the electrification and the delivery of the station, I mean, that is concrete in the IRP, and there are timescales. I'd recommend that you go and have. It's not too difficult a document to read. Go and have a nose at it. There's a timetable in there. So I think the commitment to delivering electrification by the early 2030s, the consequent HS2 station at Parkway are certainly concrete within the document, and it's really just a question of how does that relate to everything else that we're doing. So certainly those two things.
No? Okay, thank you very much indeed for coming. Really appreciate it. Right, our final item, the Remit and Work Programme. Karen.
Right, so you've got the report on the Remit Work Programme topic reviews and potential date for additional meetings. What I suggest is you have a look at Appendix 1, which sets out the items that we've considered this year and outstanding items. You'll note that the Our City, Our River project joint meeting with the Corporate Services Review Board was due to be held last Thursday, I believe, but that was an in-court meeting and will be rearranged shortly. You'll see today that we've managed to pull in the homelessness item, which just leaves us the two items at the bottom, climate change and Marketing Derby update. Climate change is not in a position as yet to come to the board and is likely to cover all boards rather than this one specifically. So that's sort of where we are at the moment.
So the only one that could possibly come to an additional meeting would be Marketing Derby.
That's correct.
I'm not sure that's worth it, really. But Councillor Grimmadale.
Well, I was just going to say, Chair, that I'd like to hear the update on Marketing Derby ASAP, really, if we can move that into our next meeting. But I hear the words of the Chair regarding Marketing Derby.
It just seems to me to get all of this together for one item, it doesn't seem a good use of resource to me. Oh, you agree. Thank you. Are we all agreed? Yes, good. Right, so we'll just leave it at that. So it's, well, the next municipal year committee will take that work on. We'll see who's on that committee then. Right, thank you very much. Councillor Carr.
Very, very quickly, can we do some more work on having some additional meetings for the next municipal year? Because, you know, one every 3 months is not really, you know, very productive in my opinion, because by the time we get round to finishing what we started, the committee members change and different priorities come forward.
Yeah, it's a difficult one, isn't it? But yeah, take your point in mind. Councillor Grimmadale.
I agree totally with Councillor Khan, and I would reiterate what he says, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much indeed for your input, gentlemen. Right, that's it. Thank you very much indeed, and good luck in the local elections if either of you are standing. I don't know whether you are or not.